Daniel Carter had $3 in his pocket when a bullet meant for billionaire Victoria Hayes tore through his chest instead. The security guards called him crazy for protecting a stranger. The shooter called him a fool for dying for the rich. But when Victoria woke up and discovered what the struggling janitor had done for her, she made a decision that brought an entire hospital to tears and changed 2 broken lives forever. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Daniel Carter's alarm didn't go off because the electricity had been cut again. He woke up in the dark, his body aching from sleeping on the worn-out couch. The apartment was freezing. No heat. No power. Just another morning in the life of a single father barely surviving. "Daddy?" His 6-year-old daughter Lily's voice came from the bedroom. "I'm cold." Daniel's heart broke for the 1000th time. He wrapped his only jacket around his shivering daughter and held her close. "I know, sweetheart. I'll fix it today. I promise." It was a promise he had made every day for 2 weeks. A promise he couldn't keep on a janitor's salary that barely covered rent. 3 years ago, Daniel had been a promising architect with a beautiful wife and dreams bigger than the sky. Then everything collapsed. His wife Maya died in a car accident, leaving him with baby Lily and debts he couldn't pay. He lost his job when grief made him unable to function. He lost their house. He lost everything except his daughter. Now he cleaned toilets at Memorial Hospital for $9 an hour. The other janitors mocked him constantly. "Look at Mr. Architect scrubbing floors," they would laugh. "Too good to talk to us now?" But Daniel never responded. He couldn't afford to lose this job. Lily needed food more than he needed dignity. That morning, Daniel dressed Lily in 2 sweaters to keep her warm. He made her breakfast from the last box of cereal, giving her his portion and pretending he had already eaten. "Daddy, aren't you hungry?" Lily asked, her innocent eyes seeing right through his lie. "I'm fine, princess. You eat everything so you grow big and strong." At 6 years old, Lily was too thin, too quiet, too aware that they were poor. She never asked for toys or new clothes. She never complained. That hurt Daniel more than any insult. He dropped Lily at the free daycare center that took pity on struggling parents. She hugged him tight before going inside. "I love you, Daddy. You're the best daddy in the whole world." Daniel held back tears. "I love you more than all the stars, Lily." He watched her go inside, knowing she would eat lunch there. At least she wouldn't be hungry today. Daniel arrived at Memorial Hospital and started his shift. Cleaning operating rooms. Mopping floors. Emptying trash. Invisible work done by invisible people. The doctors and nurses walked past him like he didn't exist. To them, he was just part of the furniture. But Daniel didn't mind. Invisibility was safe. Invisibility meant he could keep this job and keep Lily fed. Little did he know that today, being invisible would save someone's life and change his forever. Victoria Hayes was 52 years old and worth $3 billion. She had built a tech empire from nothing, revolutionizing how the world communicated. Forbes called her a genius. Time magazine called her a visionary. Everyone called her successful. But success meant nothing when your heart was failing. Victoria had been diagnosed with severe heart disease 2 years ago. She needed a transplant, but even billions couldn't buy what didn't exist. She was on every waiting list, seeing the best doctors, trying every treatment. Nothing worked. She came to Memorial Hospital every week for treatments that bought her time but not life. The doctors were clear. Without a transplant soon, she would die. Maybe in 6 months. Maybe in 6 weeks. Nobody knew. Victoria faced death the same way she faced business. With cold calculation and zero emotion. She didn't cry. She didn't pray. She simply continued working, determined to leave her empire in perfect order before she died. She had no family. No children. No husband. She had spent 52 years building companies and making money, forgetting to build a life. Now, facing the end, she realized how empty her success felt. That Tuesday morning, Victoria arrived at Memorial Hospital for her weekly treatment. Her assistant and 2 bodyguards accompanied her everywhere. She trusted no one, needed no one, wanted no one. As she walked through the hospital corridor, she noticed a janitor cleaning the floor. He was thin, tired-looking, with kind eyes that seemed to carry heavy sadness. For a moment their eyes met. Daniel immediately looked down, invisible again. But Victoria paused. Something about that man made her stop. "You," she said sharply. "What's your name?" Daniel looked up, surprised anyone was talking to him. "Daniel Carter, ma'am." "You look tired, Daniel Carter." "I'm fine, ma'am. Just doing my job." Victoria studied him with the same intensity she used in boardrooms. This man was broken. She could see it. She recognized it because she was broken too, just in different ways. "Get back to work," she said coldly, then walked away. Daniel watched her go, not knowing he had just met the person he would die for. The hospital security that day was unusually tight. A famous politician was having surgery on the 3rd floor. Extra guards. Metal detectors. Police presence everywhere. But Marcus Webb didn't care about security. He cared about revenge. 2 years ago, Victoria Hayes had fired Marcus from her company for stealing company secrets. She had him blacklisted from every tech company in the country. She destroyed his career, his reputation, his life. Marcus had spent 2 years in prison. 2 years planning. 2 years building rage into something deadly. Today he would make Victoria Hayes pay. Marcus had dressed as a medical supply delivery person. He had forged documents. He had planned every detail. And he had a gun. At 2:47 p.m., Marcus walked into Memorial Hospital carrying a delivery box. Inside was a loaded pistol. Security waved him through, too focused on protecting the politician upstairs to notice another delivery person. Marcus made his way to the cardiology wing where Victoria received her treatments. He knew her schedule. He had been watching for weeks. Victoria was leaving her treatment room, her bodyguards flanking her on both sides. She looked tired, weaker than usual. The treatment had been particularly draining. Marcus pulled out his gun. "Victoria Hayes," he screamed. "You destroyed my life. Now I'll destroy yours." Everything happened in slow motion and lightning speed at the same time. Bodyguards reached for their weapons. People started screaming. Victoria turned, seeing her former employee and knowing instantly this was death coming for her. But her weak heart couldn't handle the shock. Victoria clutched her chest, stumbling backward, her heart condition making panic deadly. Daniel was mopping the floor 20 feet away. He heard the screaming, saw the gun, recognized the woman he had spoken to that morning. He didn't think. He didn't calculate. He just moved. Daniel dropped his mop and ran faster than he had ever run. His work boots slipped on the freshly mopped floor, but he kept going. He reached Victoria just as Marcus's fingers squeezed the trigger. Daniel threw himself in front of Victoria, his body covering hers as she collapsed from her heart attack. The bullet meant for her chest hit his instead. The pain was instant and overwhelming. Fire exploding in his chest. But Daniel didn't move. He stayed covering Victoria, protecting her even as blood poured from his wound. More gunshots. The bodyguards had returned fire. Marcus Webb fell to the ground, dead before he hit the floor. But Daniel barely registered any of it. His vision was darkening. His strength was leaving. All he could think about was Lily. "I'm sorry, baby girl," he whispered. Daddy tried to keep his promise. Then everything went black. Daniel woke up 3 days later in the ICU. Pain filled every part of his body. Tubes and wires connected him to machines. The beeping of monitors was the only sound. A nurse noticed him awake and smiled with tears in her eyes. "Welcome back, Mr. Carter. You're a hero." "Lily," Daniel tried to say, but his throat was too dry. "Your daughter is fine. She's in the waiting room with Mrs. Hayes." Daniel's confusion must have shown because the nurse explained. "Victoria Hayes, the woman you saved. She hasn't left the hospital since you were shot. She's been taking care of your daughter." That made no sense. Why would a billionaire care about a janitor's daughter? Over the next few hours, doctors explained everything. The bullet had pierced his lung and broken 2 ribs. He had lost tremendous amounts of blood. He had technically died twice on the operating table. "You're incredibly lucky to be alive," the doctor said. "Another inch to the left and nothing could have saved you." But Daniel didn't feel lucky. He felt terrified about medical bills he couldn't pay and a job he had probably lost. That evening his door opened. Lily ran inside, tears streaming down her face. "Daddy? Daddy, you're awake." Daniel hugged his daughter with his good arm, crying freely now. "I'm here, baby. Daddy's here." Behind Lily stood Victoria Hayes. The billionaire looked different from the cold woman he had met in the hallway. Her eyes were red from crying. Her expensive suit was wrinkled. She looked human. "Mr. Carter," Victoria said softly. "May I speak with you?" Daniel nodded, still holding Lily close. Victoria approached the bed slowly. "You saved my life. That bullet was meant for me. My bodyguards were too slow, my body was shutting down from the heart attack. Without you I would be dead." "Anyone would have done the same," Daniel whispered. "No." Victoria's voice was firm. "No one has ever done anything like that for me. Ever. Do you know why you did it?" Daniel looked at his daughter. "Because everyone deserves to live. Because someone's life was in danger and I could help. Because that's what I want my daughter to learn. Victoria sat down in the chair beside his bed. Fresh tears rolled down her face. I've spent 52 years being cold, being ruthless, pushing everyone away. I built an empire, but I have no one who loves me. No one who would take a bullet for me. Except a janitor I was rude to and who had every reason to hate rich people like me. She looked at Lily, then back at Daniel. While you were unconscious, I took care of your daughter. She told me everything. How you lost your wife. How you lost everything trying to raise her alone. How you give her your food because there isn't enough. How the electricity is cut off and you wrap her in your only jacket to keep her warm. Daniel felt shame wash over him. He didn't want pity, especially from someone so wealthy. But Victoria continued. That little girl thinks you're the greatest man in the world. She doesn't care that you clean toilets or that you're poor. She just knows her daddy loves her more than anything. And you proved that by protecting a stranger, even though dying would leave her orphaned. Victoria reached out and took Daniel's hand. Let me help you. Please. You gave me my life back. Let me give you yours. Victoria Hayes was a woman who solved problems with money and power. But Daniel Carter presented a problem that couldn't be solved that way. I can't accept charity, Daniel said firmly when Victoria offered to pay off all his debts. I appreciate everything, but I need to take care of my daughter myself. Most people would have been offended. But Victoria was impressed. This man had integrity that couldn't be bought. Then work for me, Victoria proposed. You were an architect before everything fell apart, correct? Daniel was shocked she knew that. How did you? I researched you after the shooting. Daniel Carter, graduated top of your class, won multiple design awards, lost everything when your wife died. Victoria leaned forward. I'm building a new tech campus. I need an architect with vision. Someone who understands loss and rebuilding. Someone who values people over profit. I haven't worked in architecture for 3 years. Nobody will hire me. I'm hiring you. Right now. $60,000 a year to start, with benefits and housing included. You and Lily will live in company housing until you get back on your feet. Daniel wanted to say no. Pride demanded he refuse. But then he looked at Lily, remembering her shivering in the cold apartment, eating the last of their food, being so brave about their poverty. Why are you doing this? Daniel asked. What do you really want? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. That bullet you took was meant to kill me. It should have killed you instead. But you survived and so did I. Maybe we both got a second chance for a reason. She stood up, her voice cracking with emotion. I'm dying, Daniel. My heart is failing. I have maybe 6 months left. I've spent my whole life being cold and alone and successful. But you showed me something I never understood. You showed me that love is stronger than money. That sacrifice is real. That heroes exist. Victoria wiped her tears. I can't buy more time. But I can buy meaning for the time I have left. Let me help you rebuild your life. Let me be part of something good before I die. Please. Daniel saw the desperation in her eyes. This wasn't about pity or charity. This was about a dying woman trying to find purpose before the end. Okay, Daniel said quietly. I'll work for you. But as an employee, not a charity case. Victoria smiled through her tears. Deal. Daniel's recovery took 2 months. Victoria paid for everything from the surgery to physical therapy to Lily's care. She visited the hospital every day, often bringing Lily with her. The media had covered the shooting extensively. Janitor Hero Saves Billionaire ran on every news channel. Daniel became famous overnight, though he hated the attention. But the city's response was overwhelming. People sent cards and flowers. Children from Lily's daycare made get-well drawings. The hospital staff treated him like family. And Victoria transformed from a cold businesswoman into something close to a friend. She spent hours talking with Daniel about life, loss, and second chances. She read stories to Lily. She even learned to braid the little girl's hair, something she had never done before. You're good with her, Daniel observed one day. Victoria smiled sadly. I always wanted children. But I was too busy building empires. Now it's too late. It's never too late to love someone, Daniel said gently. Those words stayed with Victoria. When Daniel was finally released from the hospital, Victoria kept her promise. She had arranged a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment in company housing. Furniture. Electricity. Food in the refrigerator. Everything Lily had been missing. The little girl ran through the apartment screaming with joy. Daddy, we have our own rooms. And the lights work. And it's so warm. Daniel stood in the doorway with tears streaming down his face. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you for giving my daughter a home." Victoria hugged him, something the old Victoria would never have done. "Thank you for reminding me that money means nothing if you have no one to share it with." 3 months after the shooting, Daniel started his new job as lead architect for Hayes Technologies campus. His talent came flooding back. The designs he created were brilliant, innovative, beautiful. Victoria watched him work with pride. She had been right about him. He was special. But something else was happening. Victoria's health was deteriorating faster than expected. The stress of the shooting had damaged her already weak heart. Doctors gave her 2 months, maybe 3. She started putting her affairs in order. Selling companies. Establishing foundations. Writing her will. But one problem remained: Daniel and Lily. Victoria had no family. No heirs. She had decided to leave the majority of her fortune to charity. But she wanted to ensure Daniel and Lily were protected. She called Daniel into her office one afternoon. He could see she had been crying. "What's wrong?" he asked, concerned. "I'm dying faster than expected," Victoria said bluntly. "I have maybe 6 weeks left." Daniel felt like he had been punched. In just a few months, Victoria had become family. Lily loved her like a grandmother. He had come to depend on her wisdom and friendship. "There must be something the doctors can do," he said desperately. "There isn't. No available heart donors. No miracle treatments left." Victoria handed him a folder. "This is my will. I'm leaving you and Lily $5 million. It's enough to secure her future, to give her everything you dreamed of providing." Daniel stared at the number, unable to comprehend it. "I can't accept this." "You can and you will," Victoria said firmly. "That little girl deserves every opportunity. And you saved my life. This is me saving hers." "But why so much? Why us?" Victoria's voice broke. "Because in my last months on Earth, you two gave me something I never had. A family. You let me matter for reasons that had nothing to do with money or power. Lily calls me Aunt Victoria. She draws me pictures. She asks me to braid her hair. Do you know how precious that is?" She wiped her tears. "I'm not buying your love. I'm thanking you for giving me love I never earned. That bullet you took gave me the greatest gift, time to understand what really matters." Daniel hugged Victoria while she cried. "You're not dying in 6 weeks. I won't let you." But Daniel couldn't stop what was coming. 4 weeks later, Victoria collapsed at work. Emergency surgery. Her heart was giving up. The doctors were clear. Without a transplant immediately, she would die within days. Daniel sat in the hospital waiting room with Lily sleeping in his arms. The same ICU where he had almost died. The same chairs where Victoria had waited for him to wake up. "Please God," he prayed. "Don't take her. Not yet." She finally found happiness. She finally found family. The doctors came out looking grave. "We're so sorry. There are no matching donors. All we can do is make her comfortable." Daniel felt rage at the unfairness of it all. Victoria had billions but couldn't buy the one thing she needed. Life was cruel. But then a miracle happened. At 3 a.m. a call came to the hospital. A car accident victim in Chicago was brain dead. The family was donating organs. The victim was a perfect match for Victoria. The transplant surgery began immediately. 12 hours of delicate work. Doctors removing Victoria's failing heart and replacing it with a donor heart that still beat strong. Daniel waited the entire time, praying, hoping, begging for Victoria to survive. Finally, the surgeon emerged. The transplant was successful. "She's alive." Daniel broke down sobbing. Lily woke up and hugged her father, not understanding but feeling his relief. Victoria Hayes had received her miracle. A second chance at life. A new heart, literally and figuratively. Victoria's recovery was long but remarkable. The new heart worked perfectly. Color returned to her face. Energy came back to her body. She was genuinely healthy for the first time in years. And she was different. The cold billionaire was gone forever. In her place was a woman who smiled, who hugged people, who cried during sad movies with Lily. "You know what's funny?" Victoria told Daniel one day. "I thought that bullet would kill me. But it saved me. It brought you into my life. It taught me what love feels like. It gave me a reason to fight for this transplant." She looked at Lily coloring at the table. "I have a new heart now. A heart that knows how to love. I owe that to you and that precious girl." Daniel smiled. "We're the ones who owe you everything." "No," Victoria said firmly. "You taught me that real wealth isn't measured in money. It's measured in people who matter. In sacrifices made for others. In a little girl who draws pictures because she loves you." She took Daniel's hand. I've decided to step down as CEO. I'm going to focus on what matters. Family. Family? Daniel asked. Yes. You and Lily if you'll have me. Victoria's voice shook with emotion. I know I can't replace Maya. I would never try. But I'd like to be part of your lives. Aunt Victoria who spoils Lily and helps you when you need it. Family doesn't have to be blood. Sometimes it's chosen. Daniel felt tears roll down his face. We'd be honored. That day they officially became a family. Not traditional, not expected, but real. While Victoria recovered, the investigation into Marcus Webb revealed something darker. Webb hadn't acted alone. He had been funded by Richard Chin, a rival tech CEO who had wanted Victoria dead so he could acquire her companies cheaply. Chin had manipulated Webb's rage, provided the gun, and arranged for security to be distracted that day. He had essentially ordered a murder. The FBI arrested Chin 6 months after the shooting. The evidence was overwhelming. Emails, bank transfers, recorded conversations. The trial became national news. Billionaire conspiracy to murder dominated headlines. Daniel had to testify. He sat on the witness stand and described that day in detail. The gun. The bullet. The moment he chose to protect Victoria. Why did you do it? The prosecutor asked. Because life is precious, Daniel said simply. I didn't know Victoria was rich or powerful. I just knew someone needed help. That's what decent people do. We help. The defense tried to paint Chin as a desperate businessman. But the jury saw through it. Richard Chin was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to 30 years in prison. Justice was served. But Daniel felt no satisfaction in revenge. Chin going to prison wouldn't erase the bullet wound or the trauma. It wouldn't bring back the time he lost with Lily while recovering. Justice isn't about revenge, Daniel told reporters after the verdict. It's about protecting society from dangerous people. Chin is behind bars. That makes everyone safer. Victoria agreed. I spent too much of my life holding grudges and seeking revenge against business rivals. But Daniel taught me that forgiveness brings more peace than revenge ever could. They walked away from the courthouse together, ready to focus on life instead of death. 2 years after the shooting, Daniel stood at the grand opening of the Hayes Technology Campus. His design had won international awards. The building was beautiful, innovative, and focused on employee wellness. Victoria stood beside him, healthy and glowing. Her new heart beat strong. She had transformed her company into one focused on people over profit. And Lily, now 8 years old, cut the ribbon to officially open the campus. She wore a pretty dress Victoria had bought her and smiled at the cameras. This building, Victoria announced to the gathered crowd, is named the Daniel Carter Humanitarian Center. Named after the man who taught me that heroism isn't about power or wealth. It's about sacrifice for others. She looked at Daniel with tears in her eyes. 2 years ago, a janitor with $3 in his pocket took a bullet meant for me. He didn't know who I was. He didn't expect a reward. He just saw someone in danger and chose to help. That moment changed both our lives forever. Victoria took Lily's hand. Daniel gave me the greatest gift, a second chance at life and a family to share it with. This campus will serve as a reminder that success means nothing without love, and wealth means nothing without purpose. The crowd applauded. Daniel felt overwhelmed by emotion. 2 years ago he had been at the bottom. No hope. No future. Just survival. Now he stood here with a career he loved, a daughter who was thriving and a woman who had become family. That evening, the three of them sat together in Victoria's garden. Lily played nearby while Daniel and Victoria talked. Do you ever regret it? Victoria asked. Taking that bullet? You almost died. Daniel thought about it honestly. The pain was terrible. The recovery was hard. Lily was terrified. But no, I don't regret it. Why not? Because that moment taught me something important. I had spent 3 years feeling worthless. I was just a janitor barely surviving. But when I jumped in front of that bullet, I realized I still had value. I could still make a difference. I could still be a hero for my daughter. He looked at Victoria. And I gained something I never expected. A family. You've been amazing to Lily and me. You gave us everything. Victoria shook her head. You gave me everything. You gave me purpose. You showed me what love looks like. You introduced me to this incredible child who calls me aunt and makes me feel needed. She watched Lily playing. I have a new heart now. A heart that beats because someone died and their family chose to give life through donation. But I also have a new heart in a different way. I know how to love now. I know what matters. We all got second chances, Daniel said softly. Yes. And we didn't waste them. 5 years after the shooting, Daniel married Sarah Chin, a doctor he met at the hospital during his recovery. Victoria walked Lily down the aisle at the wedding, the closest thing to a grandmother the girl had ever known. Victoria's company continued to thrive, but she had reduced her hours to focus on family. She spent her time spoiling Lily, traveling with Daniel's family, and funding scholarships for struggling single parents. The bullet wound had healed, leaving only a scar over Daniel's heart. A reminder of the day everything changed. But the real change wasn't visible in scars. Daniel had learned that hitting bottom isn't the end. That janitors can be heroes. That rich people can have empty lives. That family doesn't require blood. That second chances are real. Victoria had learned that wealth without love is poverty. That success without purpose is meaningless. That a little girl's hug is worth more than $1 billion. And Lily learned that her daddy was truly the greatest man in the world. On the 5th anniversary of the shooting, they visited Maya's grave together. Daniel brought flowers. Lily brought a drawing she had made. Victoria stood respectfully back, giving them space. "Mommy," Lily said to the gravestone, "Daddy saved someone's life. And that someone saved ours. I have everything now. A beautiful home. Good food. Great school. Aunt Victoria who loves me. And Daddy is happy again." She placed her drawing on the grave. "I think you sent Aunt Victoria to us. Thank you, Mommy." Daniel wiped his tears. Maya would have loved Victoria. She always said the best people are the ones who learn to grow. Victoria joined them, placing her own flowers on Maya's grave. "Thank you," she whispered to the woman she never met. "Thank you for raising a man who taught me how to be human." They stood together in silence, 3 people bound by tragedy and saved by love. That evening they had dinner together as they did every Sunday. Lily told stories about school. Daniel shared his latest architectural designs. Victoria talked about her latest foundation project. It was ordinary. It was beautiful. It was everything. "Daddy," Lily said during dessert, "remember when we had no electricity and I was always cold?" "I remember, baby. I thought we would always be poor. I thought you would always be sad." She smiled. "But you took a bullet for Aunt Victoria and everything changed. You're a real superhero." Daniel looked at Victoria, who smiled through tears. "No, sweetheart. I'm just a dad who got lucky. The real miracle was finding family when we needed it most." Victoria raised her glass. "To second chances. To new hearts. To family we choose. And to a janitor who taught a billionaire what really matters." They clinked glasses, this unlikely family that had been forged through bullets and miracles. Daniel Carter had taken a bullet for a stranger and received everything in return. Victoria Hayes had received a new heart and learned how to use it. And Lily Carter got to grow up knowing her father was a true hero. The scar on Daniel's chest would fade over time. But the love they built together would last forever. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. Sometimes taking a bullet saves 2 lives instead of 1. Sometimes janitors are heroes and billionaires need saving. And sometimes, just sometimes, love really does conquer all.